in our Unitarian Universalist tradition of recognizing the worth and value of each person, of the beauty and, in fact, divinity in each one of us, I invite you to respectfully turn to one another and greet each other. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 announcements this morning. But some of them are quick and fun. For example, I just want to remind people that Star Wars Day is tomorrow. May the 4th be with you. And if you laughed at that, you have now recognized that the first Sunday in May is World Laughter Day. You didn't know that? Well, that's why I made an announcement. More seriously, in the traditions that we recognize, and I tried to wear a tie that had many religious traditions represented, Beltane, a pagan Wiccan holiday, was on May 1st. So we just had that celebration, and that also happened to be the celebration of Buddha's birthday. We will have on May 5th the anniversary of our founder of American Unitarianism, William Ellery Channing's Baltimore sermon called Unitarian Christianity from May 5th, 1819. Just to know, the beginning of May is important in many different traditions. Today, this afternoon, right here at UUTC, the Brevard Jewish community will present a talk by Professor Marnie Davis of Georgia State University, Jews and Booze, Becoming American in the Age of Prohibition. This story is not only important to the saga of American Jewish history, but as a story of an immigrant society seeking a haven in America, its triumphs and travails, and it just so happens to be Jewish American Heritage Month this month. So I'm glad we can help host something for the Jewish community in Jewish American Heritage Month. Auction. There are still things from the auction, experiences posted on the bulletin board. And so if you missed out on the ability to go ahead and sign up for a dinner, an experience, a hike, a lecture, please know you get a final chance to do this. Don't forget, a lot of people forget what I say at the beginning of the service by the time you get to coffee hour, but don't forget to look at the bulletin boards to remind you to get in. May 13th is Wonderful Wednesday. It's poetry reading, and why that poem is significant to the reader. So it's an open mic night. There's a sign up in the lobby. The upcoming poetry open mic is hosted by Ken Shamley, and it's less than 2 weeks away, so think about it. If you're coming for the dinner, or if you're signing up to share a poem. The El Centro book drive has been publicized in the update, the weekly emails for everybody. I think there's a box out there in the entryway. We'll have better signage for that. The social action team is hosting this because they found that El Centro does not have a collection of books for young children, and thought maybe we could be part of a solution for that. English or Spanish, whatever it is that you might want to contribute to help would be greatly appreciated. Let's see. And then finally, I wanted to lift up, and Jim Hardy had done this back at the end of March, that we have a democracy declaration team, and we would like members to vote at the May meeting, that's May 17th. After the church service, we have our annual meeting to elections, reports, and to also vote on this particular statement. And back in June of last year, the Unitarian Universalist General Assembly put forward a resolution saying we needed immediate witness for anti-authoritarianism and a promotion of democracy. And by September, the Unitarian Universalist Association had sent out a projected way in which congregations could do that, and asked each congregation to consider making a statement in support of democracy as we watch the rise of authoritarianism in our country. And so we've had a small group working on this statement. It's been out on the countertop in the lobby. If you remember, you got an email with it sent to you as well to study ahead of time. And we're asking you to read it and go ahead with it as hopefully making a supportive statement as a congregation. We understand there are other congregations, our region are a little ahead of us, like Hendersonville, I think, already voted in their statement, and we got to see theirs, but we put together our own for that. So that was my final announcement. And with that in mind, I welcome Scott Ritter and Karen Batten to come forward and give us our music to lead us into worship.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Nancy Richards. I'm your substitute worship associate this morning. And for today's chalice lighting, we're going to read in unison some words that will soon appear on the screen, words by Michelle Collins. Please join me. This flame is for the questions that follow us home, the ones that refuse to settle, that sit beside us at night. Not every riddle is meant to be solved. Let this light keep open a space where not knowing is allowed to breathe.
we have this time in the service to lift up the things that we bring into this room, or for those who are away and watching online. I have several notes here that have been written up for joys and sorrows, and I'll read from each one as Nancy lights the candles. Thank you for stepping in today. We'll start with the one for Jackie from Nancy, who says, prayers for Jackie, who would have been in your worship associate this morning, but has an infected gland. And a candle of joy from Keem and Sharon Moya. We are celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary today. Another joy, this one from Loie, who says, a joy for Tessa. She made it to Michigan last night after 2 long days of driving the U-Haul. Loie also writes a joy for Virginia Watkins, that Virginia has come through her double mastectomy gloriously, and she sends her love and gratitude for all her UUTC family. And we end with a concern. John Austin has written a concern for at least 2, and actually I know the third one, members of the choir, Jill Beach, Janet Eckhoff, and also Judith, who were suffering with COVID. And let's light a candle for all those things not yet shared, perhaps held in the hearts of those who are watching online, or maybe among people in this room who are not quite ready to share, but if you listen closely at coffee hour or whenever we meet and greet, we may learn more about what's going on in our lives. And we lift up Spirit of Love and Life, each of these candles, their joys, their sorrows. May we prayerfully approach one another with our hearts open to hearing, with empathy, our hearts also leaping with joy for those who have joys. For it is in this way of reacting to one another, heart to heart, soul to soul, that we live out in truth our wonderful religion. Blessed be. Amen.
Our opening words today are written by Jackie Fricks with the help of AI, based on a quote from Brené Brown. Welcome to this quiet space of shared presence and open hearts. Today, we gather in to lean into what Brené Brown calls the ultimate sign of confidence, the simple, profound courage to be curious. In a world that often demands we be certain, we choose instead to be open. Brené teaches us that choosing to be curious is choosing to be vulnerable. It is the act of letting go of the need to know so that we may begin the holy work of learning. While curiosity can be a disruptor, shaking us from our comfort, we recognize that its opposite is disengagement. When we stop wondering, We risk closing ourselves off to the wonder of one another. May we find the grounded confidence today to stay curious, to rumble gently with the unknown, and to move closer to the truths that wait in the stillness. Please join me for the opening hymn, which is number 38, Morning Has Broken.
Good morning. My name's Kevin, and this is the Wisdom for All Ages. And today we are using the book called About God, a Unitarian Universalist book for kids by Betsy Williams. And the theme for this month is curiosity. How do we handle curiosity? What do we do with our curiosity? How do we engage other people's curiosity? And so these are 3 short little vignettes, short little stories that ask the question, what do we think about God, or what do we not think about God? The first one is called The Oneness of Everything. Well, the sand was still warm from the hot sun of that day, but we were buried into our sleeping bags, camping far from home on the beach. The lights from our town were far away. It was quiet, and there was not a sound. And we stared up into the darkness, and then out came the stars. There were bright stars and dim stars. There were shooting stars, thousands, millions, billions of stars. And it felt like I was out floating in the atmosphere with all these stars. Now, some people would call this vast, mysterious universe that we're all in, some would call it God, but some would not. What would you call it? And the next short story is called Love and Goodness. So my family and I, we had just moved to a great new house near the beach when the hurricane hit. We had to get out as fast as we could, and we didn't have a chance to bring much with us. And when we returned, we could barely recognize our new neighborhood. The roof was torn off of our house, everything in it was ruined, and we were just devastated. But then an amazing thing happened. The people started showing up. People started showing up from all over the country, literally as far as you could come from. And they showed up to help us clean up. Total strangers helped dig us out of the sand and the mud and find our belongings, what we could. I even made a new friend named Lucas, for he had come with his whole family to help. And I'll never forget him or the hundreds of people that came to show us love and goodness. And some people would call the spirit of love and the power of goodness God, but some would not. What would you? And our final story is nature. I was stuck at my Aunt Sandy's house for the afternoon again. No friends, no internet, no TV, no fun whatsoever. So I threw myself down in a worn out old hammock in the yard and just looked up, and I saw a spider scurry out and start repairing a web between two trees. I was mesmerized. Now, I'm pretty good at arts and crafts, but I can never build anything as delicate or as strong as a spider's web. And that afternoon went by, and I didn't even notice I was lost in the beautiful world that hung above my head. And some people would call the beauty of nature God, but some would not. What would you? So this month, let's think about curiosity and what we can be curious about. And we'll call Cora up with our children's chalice, and we'll light it and sing us out.
I like those three stories. The one in the middle had something about how people showed up with love for one another. I think if I was going to be asked what is God, I would say God is love. Love is God. The way we do love is the way in which we are a part of the divine ourselves. In this part of the service, we reach into our wallets, our pocketbooks. We do something to give out of love to an organization that makes a difference to us and makes a difference to others. We show up for others. At the same time, we look around our community and we vote out of a whole bunch of opportunities of what to nominate and vote on, some organizations that we think are showing up, making a difference. This being the first of Sunday of May, we switched up from the organization we had last month, and now we're giving in the envelope towards the Haven. What I know of the history of the Haven was that a predecessor organization had been helped by UUTC folks, and that in fact the Haven itself was built in part on donations from this congregation and the actual sweat equity of people in this congregation to help those who were suddenly or unexpectedly without shelter. It's one of the first organizations I went to visit during COVID when I arrived. And they had to cut back on how many people they could put into this glorious building they had because they weren't allowed to have anybody within 6 feet of each other. Made it kind of tough. So they negotiated with various hotels, which weren't getting the tourist trade because of COVID. Could you put up some people? So we tried. We found ways. As you give today to this congregation in the baskets or in the envelope to Haven, think about it. Think about with curiosity. Is this God? We will now receive the morning offering. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Loie. Thank you, Bruce. For all that's given in love, we receive with joy. Thank you. I invite you into this time of prayer and meditation. Spirit of love and life, or whoever, whichever, whatever we may use as an address. We know that once we began to speak, one of our first most important questions was why? Why is this way? Why? Why are there bugs and sunlight? Why do things happen the way they do? Why do bad things happen? Why am I who I am? In times of great despair, the great religious leaders have from time to time given us some answers, and yet still in the stories that we remember through the Holy Week leading up to Easter Day, there was great religious leader Jesus asking, "Why, Abba, have you forsaken me? Why?" Our curiosity about how we as human beings can be, from one moment, so loving, so joyful, and the next moment, so violent with one another. Why? Spirit of love and life, whoever, whatever, however we may be exploring, may we continue to be curious, open to knowing more, wondering more, and in that way, being awake to openness and possibility. For it seems in this world that the more certain the people we meet, the more likely to find that there are some who are left out of certainty. May we embrace the curiosity that was given to us as children. May we carry it with love into all we do. These and the prayers of our hearts we hold now in the silence. in the names of all those known and unknown, remembered and forgotten, in the names of all the helpers of humankind, we say, Amen. Blessed be.
It's hard not to notice that spring really came quick. The last month, it's just every day. The walk in the woods, there's something new to see. It's really, really wonderful to live here and to be able to experience it. This song was written by a guy named Stan Rogers, who was a Canadian songwriter. And Stan wrote songs about small heroes doing small but yet important things. This is a song about a guy on a tractor, obviously in the springtime. Oh, and I have to put my capo on for this. This song is called Watch the Field Behind the Plow. Watch the field behind the plow, turn to straight dark roads, feel the trickle in your clothes, blow the dust cake from your nose, hear the tractor's steady roar. Oh, you can't stop now, there's a quarter section more or less to go. And it figures that the rain keeps its own sweet time. You can watch it come for miles, so you guess you've got a while. Ease the throttle out a hair, every rod's a game, and there's victory in every quarter mile. And old Cusick up the road, the heartache, hail, and hoppers brought him down. He gave it up and went to town. And Emmett Pierce the other day, he took a heart attack and died at 42. You could see it coming on, 'cause he worked as hard as you. In an hour, maybe more, you'll be wet clear through. The air is cooler now. Pull your hat brim further down and watch the field behind the plow. Turn to straight dark roads, put another season's promise in the ground. And if the harvest's any good, the money just might cover all the loans. You've mortgaged all you own. Buy the kids a winter coat. Take the wife back east for Christmas if you can. All summer she hangs on when you're so tied to the land. For the good times come and go, but at least there's rain. So this won't be barren ground when September rolls around. Watch the field behind the plow, turn to straight dark roads, put another season's promise in the ground. Watch the fields behind the plow, turn to straight dark roads, put another season's promise in the ground.
Walt Whitman, American poet from the 1800s, wrote a very long poem, Song of the Open Road, and I have a part to read from this here. It's from our hymn book in number 645, in case you ever want to look at it again. Afoot and light-hearted, I take to the open road, healthy, free, the world before me. Henceforth, I ask not good fortune, I myself am good fortune. Strong and content, I travel the open road. I inhale great draughts of space, the east and the west are all mine, and the north and the south are mine. All seems beautiful to me. I can repeat over to men and women, you have done such good to me, I would do the same to you. Whoever you are, come travel with me. However sweet these laid up stores, however convenient this dwelling, we cannot remain here. However sheltered this port, and however calm these waters, we must not anchor here. Together, the inducements shall be greater. We will sail pathless and wild seas. We will go where winds blow, waves dash, and the Yankee clipper speeds by under full sail. Forward, after the great companions, and belong to them. They too are on the road, onward to that which is endless as it was beginningless. To undergo much, tramps of days, rests of night, to see nothing anywhere, but that you may reach it and pass it. To look up or down no road, but it stretches and waits for you. To know the universe itself as a road, as many roads, as roads for traveling souls. This is his poem. Now, I reached out this week to a subset of our 900 or so people who are on our email list and asked, what are you curious about? What questions would you ask? What were you, the way you grew up, were you told not to be curious, or were you allowed to be curious? And so far, 2 people have responded. Now, this means that I have to fill in with rather dry, boring readings and other things to make this flesh out. But I do want to say, I know that you're curious. Maybe you were afraid I'd call you out on your curiosity because you really wanted to know why Pope Innocent had done what he had done back in the day, but you didn't want to have your name attached to not having the full answer to that yet. Or maybe it was that you were saying, well, I guess everybody would ask the same question, and probably they would have, but they didn't. So I'm going to tell you a story. Maybe you've heard a story like this before. I would go on Boy Scout campouts. I tried to be one of the Boy Scouts who got the 12-month badge. That I went every month on a campout. And our troop tried to help promote that, even if it was snowing out or whatever it may be. We try to be out there. And what do you do when you're on a campout? Well, you cook some food and you try to learn some skills and you manage as best as you can under leadership of boys who are just a couple years older than you. At the time it was Boy Scouts. Although our assistant scoutmaster, the wife of our scoutmaster, said, why is it women aren't allowed to lead? That was a good, curious question, and we had to kind of stop and ponder that. She kept it in our thoughts of why can't the women lead? How come she could only be an assistant scoutmaster? But when we were out on campouts, we'd talk about whatever was on our minds. And sometimes, as a budding potential Unitarian Universalist minister, I didn't know it at the time, I would therefore have some stories about life, the universe, and everything. And I decided that life, the world, and the universe was all like a hamburger. We had the hamburger bun, and we had the meat in the hamburger, and we had the toppings, and we had all of that. And at the end of it, my fellow scouts said, "Bob, you're crazy. We like you, Bob, but you're crazy." But you see, I've been raised as a Unitarian Universalist in which I could see the holy in just about anything, in which I could, in fact, feel empowered to explore as I wanted to what was important or not. Now, I have no clue whether that sermon sunk in for all of my fellow scouts, that really life, the universe, and everything is like a hamburger, but perhaps it opened doors for them to be able to think about things other than as catechisms. Memorize this, repeat it back, and therefore you are a certified religious person. It wasn't that easy as Unitarian Universalists. So we had poems and things like Whitman's, "Let's go out to the open road. Don't stay where you are. Even if this seems like a great place to anchor, just pick up your anchor and set sail. Find more. See from new perspectives. Go places. Find that you are on the road with companions from all ages and times." I did have, as one of the respondents who came in 30 minutes before this service and said, "I don't know why I had to memorize as much as I did for a catechism. Can you explain this?" And as I'm not from that tradition, I have no clue whatsoever. I also have no clue whatsoever why the course I took at the University of Chicago to meet one of my church history requirements required me to memorize all the popes and emperors. University of Chicago apparently thought that this was a major deal that we as graduate students needed to be able to say. So I don't know why you were asked to memorize what you memorized for your catechism, and I don't know either why I had to know all of that for some exam. Whew. But I do know that it scrambled my brains and I couldn't do math anymore by the time I fit all the popes and emperors in there. And I couldn't tell you now, really could not tell you now, all about those popes and emperors. Because unlike algebra, where they said we'd need it in life, I don't need to know popes and emperors in my life or my ministry. What I needed to know was something more about how to live a life without certainty. That I couldn't land in any one place for very long. That somehow knowing things wasn't it. It was the questioning that was leading me in a religious path and direction. There's a book that I have that I had to find quotes from in order to fill up time in my sermon, called Faith Without Certainty, Liberal Theology in the 21st Century by Paul Razor. It was published by Skinner House Press, Unitarian Universalist Press. And I marked a couple of quotes in here. And if my device will let me scroll, it's going to let me see it. There are tensions just below the surface for religious liberals. Sometimes these tensions emerging, people become aware of competing liberal values, which, if not exactly contradictory, often pull us in more than one direction at once. I dictated this, and one direction was capitalized, apparently thinking I was talking about the band, the rock group. Anyway, a recurring example is a deep commitment to individual freedom, which can easily run up against the longing for greater sense of community, perhaps even a desire for more guidance from or even accountability to a larger group. Tensions often play out in the way religious liberals seek substantive truth. Liberals remain committed to such principles as free religious inquiry, autonomous judgment about truth claims, and openness to divergent views. At the same time, They may also yearn for more shared content, for a common understanding about their faith that's more specific than what they have now. They don't want creeds. They remain committed to the principle of individual search for truth and meaning, but they also want the search to lead somewhere. I thought he was right about that. That is a tension within our group. Oh, you can explore it however you want. Welcome to new member class. You can explore whatever you want. Now, there was a cartoon from way back when cartoons were in the Sunday paper. All right. And I think it was one of the cartoonists who often would, it wasn't like a Little Orphan Annie or Peanuts or something. Peanuts often got into religious things, but it was one of the other ones where you'd have people sit around and talk, and it had some deep meaning to it. And on this particular one, I remember, and I can't remember the author, but it was a couple of kids sitting around on a stone wall, and a person saying, well, my parents drag me off to church and say that I have to believe all this stuff, and then it seems like nobody ever does what they say they believe. The other kid says, well, you're lucky. My parents say they had too much religion forced on them when they were kids, and they weren't going to do that to me. I should make up my own mind. The kid who's been given a lot of religious instructions says, well, that sounds a lot better. So what have you decided? And the kid whose parents didn't want guidance to be forced on the child says, I don't know what I believe because they won't tell me what the options are. It's a hard thing to be a religious liberal, to say, well, what do you mean I can believe whatever I want? What are the options? Help me out here. And as a religious liberal minister, we have to make sure that we provide you the opportunity to feel free to apply reason, openness, observation, to walk through your life in a way with a curiosity in which you say, whoa, what just happened there? What is this? Or is the three examples of stories that were given by Kevin this morning, was that God? Was helping each other God? Was this spider web and the beauty of nature God? This distraction to my otherwise boring day, was that God breaking through? I don't know. I can't tell you exactly. But somehow I know that it's there. We yearn for something. I had somebody write to me saying, I was so lucky. I grew up in a household that didn't force ideas on me, and probably like the kid sitting on the stone wall in that cartoon, wasn't necessarily given anything that I had to take on and believe, and yet I still felt or yearned for and somehow understood that I was part of something bigger than myself. How in the world, this was the question, the curiosity, how in the world could I have this even if it wasn't being given to me by the adults who were my teachers? I think because we're human, because we in fact do yearn for things and want to see patterns and want to see how they are, and we reform them as we keep on going. Paul Razor in his book said later in the book, in many ways the process of inquiry was thought to be as important to the outcome or content it produced. Human reason might not be able to know or discover everything, but it could ask the right questions, and by applying the proper methods of reasoned inquiry, it could make progress and knowledge and understanding. We could, through our own questioning, produce something. out of it all. I'm going to end this sermon with a quote by Robert T. Weston, also from our hymn book. It's number 650 if you ever want to look it up again, called Cherish Your Doubts. Cherish your doubts, for doubt is the attendant of truth. Doubt is the key to the door of knowledge. It's the servant of discovery. A belief which may not be questioned binds us to error, for there is incompleteness and imperfection in every belief. Doubt is the touchstone of truth. It is an acid which eats away the false. Let no one fear the truth, that doubt may consume it. For doubting is a testing of belief. The truth stands boldly and unafraid. It's not shaken by the testing. For truth, if it be told, arises from each testing stronger, more secure. For those that would silence doubt are filled with fear. Their houses are built on shifting sands, but those who fear not doubt and know its use are founded on rock. They shall walk in the light of growing knowledge. The work of their hands shall endure. Therefore, let us not fear doubt, but let us rejoice in its help. It is to the wise as a staff to the blind. Doubt is the attendant of truth. Thank you for listening. I invite you to join in verses 1, 2, and 4 of hymn number 354, We Laugh, We Cry. We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need those friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give. We have our thoughts to receive. And we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us, and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of this child, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a time to be together, and with the grace of age we share the wonder of youth, and we believe that growing is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a joy If you come through this service having not found the answers to your life's questions, good for me. For you know, as Unitarian Universalists, I can point you to ways to explore those questions, but I cannot substitute for your own heart, soul, and mind in its search. May you continue to be curious. May you be frustrated with the way religious liberals don't give you the answer the moment you want it, but instead say, maybe truly, the answer is to question. Go out into this world with this uncertainty and let the people around you realize you still survive even without those creeds. Blessed be. Amen.